Hello and welcome to the show. Every week we discuss different running and chiropractic topics, taking full advantage of Dr. Smith's 40 plus years of experience in each.
We have to look at runners from three different directions. We're used to evaluating runners from the front and the side. There's a third dimension that you have to think about, and that is if you look at the runner from above down, there's a spiral motion. When your hip comes forward, when you extend your leg forward, your shoulder goes back. Then when you bring that leg back and switch legs, the shoulders rotate. So there's a counter-rotating proposition that happens in your spine that's very important. The better that counter rotation happens, the quicker your turnover rate. And the quicker your turnover rate, the better you run. Those muscles that control that torsional activity are your spiral muscles in your core. That snap that happens when your hip goes forward and backwards can be a snap, or it can be a soft, mushy kind of motion. So it depends on how strong those core muscles are. Strong core muscles give you a snap and a spring in your step. Weak core muscles won't quite give you the rotational stability. And so doing cross training at the gym is a great way to improve your gait. And people think about gait training as maybe holding your feet a certain way or striking in a particular way, but that's the most powerful gait training that I know of. It's just strengthening those spiral muscles around your trunk.
The fifth biggest mistake that new runners make is running through pain.
That's so true. A lot of times runners will think, gosh, I've just got to get that next run in. And so they may be feeling uncomfortable, but they go, I've got so much invested in this training program for a particular race. And we see this in particular with marathon runners. They've invested months of training. They've done a series of long and short runs that are getting longer and longer. And now they're, say, at 18 miles on their runs, and they're starting to feel pain. And usually, the pain will come from an injury, not during the long run. It's always the short run after the long run where this shows up. So they produce a slight injury. They just decide, I'm going to blow through. I'm just going to get this workout done. I'm going to use my mind. I'm going to use my mind to power through because I'm tough. We know that endurance athleticism is a mental game. It's as much a mental game as it is physical. They become conditioned to the idea that I'm going to power through this mentally and because I'm tough enough. There's a limit to this concept of don't run through pain. Obviously, you're going to have some soreness, you're going to have some tightness. You go out there and run a lot, you're going to feel aches and pains. That's not the same as the kind of pain that's leading to an injury. If your pain is rated on a 1 to 10 scale and you're at about a 3, you're probably okay. Okay, so up to 3, let it be. Okay, more than 4, better back off.
And you mentioned something that leads into your number 4, which is comparing yourself to others.
That's so true. People can develop kind of a warrior mentality. I think humans seek to avoid domination and seek to dominate. Those are two kind of primordial drives that human beings have. And when somebody's running in front of you, it's in a way kind of a domination. They're dominating the course. They're going to get there first. There's some primordial drive motors that say, don't let that guy get there first. He's going to get all the food. He's going to get gold, girls, and glory. And I'm going to be left standing on the side with my hands in my pockets and my head hanging down. So don't let that happen. I don't know, whatever mental processes that take place in our funny little minds, it causes people to push more than they need to. You try and keep up with that guy and you haven't built the metabolic machinery to support that kind of competition, you're going to get broken. And next thing you know, you're going to be standing at the cheer station while that guy you were competing with runs by during the marathon, and you're going to get to cheer for him, and you're going to feel kind of like, wow, I probably shouldn't have gone after that dude. Maybe I should have just taken it easy. So, the gladiator mentality isn't going to get you anywhere. It's better to run your own training program.
The third mistake that new runners make is not taking rest days.
We've got to take the subject of rest days from two directions. That's really relevant to two different kinds of runners. If you're a person in pursuit of winning races, or you want to qualify for Boston and you've been really chasing a goal and you're running 70 miles a week or maybe 100, taking rest days can be very important to strategically get those days placed in there so your body has adequate recovery time. What about the person who's kind of a new runner and maybe they're 50 and they've decided, I'm going to go out every day. I'm going to go out 5 days this week and run 5 miles at a time, and they're just getting started. There's a person who needs more rest days. Your body has to have time to adapt, and that's why we take those rest days, because anyone can experience overtraining syndrome, and overtraining syndrome can take weeks or even months to recover from.
Your second most common mistake that new runners make is not wearing the right gear.
That's so true. You can get gear online so easy. You can get better prices online, and you can read about the gear that you can get online. When I talk about gear, I'm mostly talking about shoes, running shoes. We have all kinds of choices in running shoes. The question I hear often from newer runners is, hey, what's a great running shoe? And the answer to that is always, well, get the shoe that fits the best first. You got to get a good fitting shoe. You're not going to get that if you order your shoes online. And if you do order online, you might save $10, $15. But if you go down to the local running shoe store, you're going to find people who are highly experienced at fitting shoes. Now, my little store down the street here in Pasadena has a bunch of guys. Some of them work there for nearly 25 years. That's all they do is fit shoes. You have no chance of having that kind of expertise when you order the stuff online, or if you go to your discount big box store, they just don't have the capacity for that kind of expertise. If you go to a running specialty shoe store, you might pay $10 or $15 extra, but think of it this way. Run with the wrong shoes and develop shin splints, or turn your feet out too much and develop peroneal tendonitis. How much is that problem going to cost you in terms of lost running time, reduced fitness, and a trip to go get it evaluated? That $15 that you save doesn't look like such a good deal anymore when you consider it that way.
And when it comes to running shoes, is there any break-in period, or if your shoe is fitted right and is for the particular type of foot that you have, should it work and do its job as soon as you take it out of the box?
That's a good question. Years ago, we had to have shoes broken in because, they had stretchy materials like a lot of leather. Leather requires a break-in. It's a malleable material that adapts. Modern running shoes don't have a break-in. You'll know in the first mile or two. You put those shoes on your feet and you run 2 miles, and if you have the right shoe on your foot, you won't even notice that it's there.
Which leads us into your number one mistake that new runners make, what you said was doing too much too soon.
Yeah, that has to do with volume and intensity. When you get a new runner out there and they've been running for a few weeks, if they haven't run before, or if they're a runner who has been a runner and has been off for a long time, they've had a long layoff and they're coming back, and in fact, we consider that to be a new runner. You might have run for 10 years and run 15 marathons, but you've been raising kids for the last 5 years and you've been off. Well, to me, you're a new runner. In fact, the person who used to be a runner is almost more dangerous because they have a standard by which they measure themselves, and their yardstick is the standard that they achieved when they were at their peak, when they were at their zenith before they laid off. The new runner is a little bit different. These people often are a little bit more tenuous about how they approach it, but once you've been running for a few weeks, you get that kind of feel that you're starting to glide through space a little bit more smoothly. There's a really wonderful feel when both of your feet are in the air and you're moving through the air. You actually are flying. And the faster you go, the more flying you do. It feels kind of good. It's really cool. And so when a person starts to feel that and becomes a little easier for them to do that, they tend to want more of it. And so the way to get more is to go faster or to do it more often. What you want to try and achieve is to put a stress on your body that causes your body to adapt. So we call that adaptive training stress. And if you stress your body and it adapts, it's going to get stronger. What we mentioned earlier, mitochondrial density. And all that means is the number of energy production plants within the cells of your muscles that can produce energy. Mitochondrial density gives you the ability to handle miles on the road and time on your feet. Unfortunately, it takes time. It takes a good 6 to 12 weeks for you to develop the kind of endurance muscles that have that mitochondrial density and the cross linkages in your muscle fibers that make them strong and able to absorb shock. What if you stress and you can't adapt? Well, we call that injury. The body will adapt as long as the training doesn't exceed its ability to adapt. So push it too much and you're injured. Now you've lost everything.
If anybody has any questions for Dr. Smith, please reach out to him through his Facebook page or his Instagram. We'll see you on the next one.